Whoops, okay.
Okay, I want you to notice whose brownies they are. This is really Katharine Hepburn's brownie recipe. She was not a cook at all, but she did make these brownies. And a friend of mine had gotten the recipe and passed it along to me. And there was a note online when I went looking, I'm trying to find that note now, which said that, I don't know if I had it in here. Okay, a note, oh yeah, here it is. Thank you. There's a note online from a home care nurse who was given the recipe by Ms. Hepburn. She said that Ms. Hepburn said to beat the mixture like mad. You can all hear her saying that if you know Katharine Hepburn. So the recipe only, it has very few. Can you show the
Okay,
table?
here's the recipe, and there's 2 versions of it.
No, just do that at the end.
Okay. Am I there?
Show the picture of what's in it.
2 versions of that, and then
Okay, so it's really simple. The original recipe has baker's chocolate squares, unsweetened squares. However, my friend switched it over to Hershey's cocoa with butter, which
powder.
Cocoa powder and butter, which is what kind of makes the baker's chocolate. I'm sure they must use oil and not butter, so it has more deliciousness, and it's a deeper chocolate taste. And as I found, I can keep the Hershey's cocoa in my pantry for a really long time and nothing happens to it. And then you can make hot cocoa if you have it. So I have switched over. So I'm going to show you in the recipe, there's her original recipe, which calls for 2 unsweetened squares of baker's chocolate, a 1/4 pound of butter, 3/4 cup of white sugar, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I always use real vanilla, but whatever you want. A 1/4 cup of flour and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So most of the things you're going to have all the time in the house. And also it only takes about 20 minutes and it gets done in 1 bowl. And you don't need any machines. You don't need any equipment. You just need a wooden spoon and a bowl. So the first thing you do is because I've made it with the powder, I just melt the butter.
1 second. It suddenly started going fast.
So I just melt the butter and mix it with the cocoa. So that was the first picture.
Let me just go back. Not responding well.
Here it is. So that's just the cocoa mixing with the butter. And if you're using the chocolate, you would put it in the microwave at very small increments and then get it to melt, unless you want to put it in a double boiler. I do like 10, 15-second increments because you don't want the chocolate to seize. So this is what it looks like before you've added anything. Again, it's 1 bowl and a wooden spoon. So we're mixing it up. It's a little lumpy. And the next one is a little smoother. At this point, I just put in the rest of the ingredients. So there's the sugar going in. There's also, okay, the butter is already in. And then eggs, vanilla, flour, salt, all at once. And then as her aide said, this is the part where you beat the mixture like mad. So you just
keep going and going and going. I was doing this.
Yeah, I don't really, I just mix it up until it looks like this. I don't beat it hard. And then you just pour it into a pan. So all of that takes around 20 minutes. You put it in the pan at 325 or I think originally it says 30 minutes. So in under an hour, you can have brownies done. Now, having said that, when they come out, they're very gooey and chocolatey and wonderful inside. So you can't, well, it says you can't eat them right away. It's hard to cut them because they're sticky and gooey. So you really kind of have to put them in the fridge or let them rest for an hour so you can cut them. But if you want to eat them gooey and chocolatey, go for it. So these had been in the fridge overnight. I brought them to someone's house. And so I cut them the next day, not the same day. And these are a little bit cakier because I made a mistake when I made them because I was cooking two things at the same time and I had the wrong temperature in, but they're generally gooier than this. But you can see the finger on top is stuck in there. So you can see a little bit of the stickiness. And of course, it tastes exactly the same, whether it's gooey or not. Now, the second part of the recipe I have in there is Debbie. Debbie, my friend who taught me the recipe, every single time you went to her house, the brownies were there. So like Debbie and brownies go together. So I always remember her when I eat this. And she never made a single batch. It was always a double batch. So what I did in the second part of the recipe that I put in, the first part is Catherine's, now she's a friend of mine, original recipe. And the second one is where I doubled it. So I did all the ingredients double with cocoa powder and butter instead of the squares. So you could use either one of the recipes, whatever you want to do. And you can see when I doubled it, I put it more in a rectangular pan than just a square brownie pan. That's the way I do it. And now during COVID, since I've discovered it, Stan's getting it about once a month. He's very happy.
So I did make that recipe because I have some new neighbors on one's like at the end of our driveway on the street over, but we share like a fence. And then I have a neighbor on the street. And so I wanted to take them brownies or something to go say hello. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try Sandra's brownies, Catherine's brownies. And watching yours, I doubled it, of course. I took your advice. And I don't think I doubled the flour. I think I doubled everything else. And I had told Sandra that they seemed really buttery, like you touch them, and some of them were also going with Jack and three other guys. They were taking a road trip up to Colorado and they're going to be at a camp for a week, adult camp, having fun and doing things. And so I just couldn't see their greasy fingers, and they were going up in an RV. And so I rolled them in powdered sugar, just trying to think of something. But I think it's because I must not have doubled the flour, and they sure tasted good.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying here. So you've made the mistake with the flour. I made the mistake with the temperature. I'm going to say I did a mathematical mistake when I doubled the recipe. And at one point I was putting in 8 tablespoons of butter instead of 4 tablespoons of butter. And they came out wonderful with the double the butter in it. So no matter how you make them, the point is they're going to come out good.
They are.
I was going to say though, baking is chemistry. So you really should be careful.
I know,
right.
but it worked, it worked either way.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're all going to be eaten. They smelled wonderful and looked beautiful. So
anyway, the recipe, I guess it'll be on the website or on.
It will.
Blog?
It'll be on the blog. The blog will actually have
You'll be able to see
printed
the full recipe.
And then everyone can say that Katharine Hepburn gave them this recipe. Like Kathleen, you could all call her, Catherine's recipe.
Sure.
Yours.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Do you have something else to say about the recipe?
It's just that my friend Debbie is no longer with us. So every time everyone makes it, they can think of my friend Debbie. She was the kind of friend that when we went on a trip for 2 weeks to Italy, and my parents usually watched my kids when we went away, that she actually took my kids for 2 weeks And we went on a trip. So that's the kind of friend she was, a really
Oh my goodness.
good
Um,
soul.
And the kids were small back
And they
then.
got brownies every day. So
Gail, do you need the rest of the recipe right now? Because it would probably be a week before it gets up there.
Just
Do you want-
how much, how much flour? I missed that totally. It was on so
are
fast.
you doing the double or the single? Which
I don't, give me the single.
Okay, the single is 2 ounces of the unsweetened squares.
Yeah, I got that. It's just the
A
flour.
quarter, the flour, a quarter cup of flour, a quarter teaspoon salt.
Thank you.
And you have 1 teaspoon vanilla.
Oh,
You have that?
I got it.
2 eggs, 3/4 a cup of sugar. 1/4 pound of butter. And look at those ounces of chocolate because they changed the size of the chocolate in the cocoa, what is it? The chocolate pack. So make sure it's 2
They
ounces of
used
unsweetened.
to have 2 ounce squares.
Yeah, and now they have 1
Now
ounce.
they give you 1 ounce squares for the same price.
Yeah, so just make sure the ounces of chocolate are right.
Great. Well, thank you. Does anybody else, you let me know, send me an email if anyone else has a recipe that they want to share. I did end up needing to make more brownies since they were going to all these places. So I did have one of those packets of like a half a size, an 8x8 on my pantry shelf. And so I took that because I thought that would be faster. And I added though, because I'd gone to buy the cocoa powder, which I hadn't had in my pantry for a long time. And I added like a tablespoon or maybe a little more of the cocoa powder into the brownie packet mix. And I have to say, that was a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
It just,
Someone asked a question about how much cocoa powder. So this is online. It says that the 2 ounces unsweetened squares of baker's chocolate equals 6 tablespoons of cocoa powder and 2 tablespoons of butter. Okay, so 2 ounces of unsweetened squares of baker's chocolate, 6 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons of butter. Now I'm gonna say Debbie did 8 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So do whatever you want.
yeah.
I do
It's
it with
a
8. I do it with 8 because I like it really chocolatey. And that's the way Debbie did it.
Well, so when I doubled the recipe, I did it with 16.
Yeah,
Is that right?
exactly it. I do
Okay.
6
Double
ta-
weight.
cocoa powders and 4 tablespoons of butter. But if you go online, it's going to say 12 and 4.
Yeah.
Cocoa. Yeah.
If anybody wants the actual recipe, I can mail it to them. Send me,
Yeah, if anyone needs it before 2 weeks,
send me a note.
if you're
Stan,
desperate.
Stan
Oh,
Posner,
Print.
stanposner@gmail.com. I'll send you a copy of the recipe.
What was that, Mary?
I said I hit screen print when it was up, so I'll have it too in just a moment.
Oh.
But you all have to send me a square of brownie when you make it. An envelope.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day how many of the recipes that have been shared I've actually made that other people shared. It's really been fun.
Yeah.
The family loves, me trying something new. So thank you all.
Kathleen, we did one more for you. It's not terribly original, exciting. It's a layered guacamole dip.
Oh, wonderful.
So if you
We can
need
do it
it,
another
it's
week.
already done.
Okay. I will. I will keep that in mind. Great.
Every time Sandra makes something these days,
He yells,
I say,
stop.
stop, we have to
Photograph it.
take pictures.
God forbid I cook anything. And I go,
Well, so I had also, to help take over stuff to neighbors, I had made some chicken and wild rice green bean casseroles. And I gave one to our daughter. And with it, I took a can of cranberry sauce. I don't make cranberry sauce from scratch. But it was the ocean spray cranberry sauce, the whole cranberry. And she said, she looked on the back and there's a recipe for a chocolate cranberry cake. And she brought me a piece and it only had a quarter of a cup of flour in it. And it's almost like a flourless cake. And I have to say, it was remarkable.
Oh.
So, and I said, did you take pictures? And she said, no. So I was disappointed, but I'm sure I'll be making that again. So anyway, well, thank you all very much for Mary, for your wonderful program on the day hiking, and Stan and Sandra for the recipe. I appreciate that.